perfect saviors. And from this point on, they are less a mysterious collective of people who aren't totally known and more just
That's what they
more of
say,
it.
but who knows? That's what
Yeah.
they tell me.
So,
But yeah.
well, just to give some people, you should read the story in the Fader. But Dan Greene, simultaneously the person, kind of like a primary songwriter or a main songwriter, and also a fictitious public face up until this point.
Yeah. Okay, let me see if I can explain this for people who are, and I just want to say before I go into it, this is what I understand it to be to the best of my knowledge. Could I still be elaborately hoaxed and left in the dark? Sure. But here is how I have been made to understand it, right? So for years they have alluded to this guy named Dan Greene. And fans know what he looks like. He's this guy with like big frame glasses. He's kind of like, I don't know, like he looks like a computer programmer or something like that. And he's been in their videos. They made like a movie which is amazing, in which he's like the sort of like mysterious leader behind it. His face is public, is what I'm saying. I actually, when my last book came out, I got a card in the mail with his face on it, which is on my refrigerator back there. And it just said, "I liked your book, Dan Greene." Like, it's just very weird cult leadership. Okay, so that's Dan Greene. However, there is an actual guy in their operation named Dan Greene. And this Dan Greene, like the real guy named Dan Greene, is just this like really soft-spoken, diminutive um guy who is I guess like a savant, in a sense, like a musical savant. Like, he just makes all of these weird sort of like MIDI versions of hardcore songs in his house, in his place in Detroit. And he works at like a supermarket, and he just makes these like songs in rapid, like just
Yeah.
really a prolific kind of like nerd, music nerd basically. And so I went to meet him, and he's been like sort of like the behind the scenes Dan Greene. Like, I want to say that nobody knows what he looks like, but they've kind of like sneaked him in as like Easter eggs in places. Like,
Okay.
if you look at their album, oh my God, the one before Only Love, which is escaping me right now, but there's a guy with this like shaved head on the cover with like the David Bowie lightning bolt on his face, like the Ziggy Stardust thing. That's, I believe, Dan Greene. I believe he was in one of the ultra pop videos. Like, he's been hidden in places, but like, he's not the face of the operation.
Okay.
His name is, but they use that name to do whatever they want. And that's like, I understand that this is very confusing. I think this, even in a sense, like, got out of hand in a sense that they didn't expect. Like, they didn't say like, okay, we're gonna have two Dan Greens, one's gonna do this, they were just like, wouldn't it be funny if we named our cult leader after this friend that we have who like makes a bunch of our beats, like,
Yeah.
and then I think it just kind of like escalated from there. So that's like one thing to like understand about the Armed, that I kind of came to understand, is it's like not, it wasn't intended to be like, what if we were this deliberately obtuse art project. It was more like, like, okay, we have a weird operation. What if we explained it to people like this? Or what
Yeah.
if we explain this way? And I think people have like helped make it more elaborate. Like, people kind of like the mythology and the
For
lore of it.
yeah. Well, you
So
just you
that's the best way I can just explain it. Yeah.
and I know they're coming to be a little more direct with who they are and what they do, but you did a good job of capturing that mythology. I mean, I like you kind of feel like you're reading about like mythological gods in
Yeah.
that piece or whatever. But real quick, the oh yeah, that album that you were trying to think of is called Untitled. That's a good
Yeah.
reason
I
to
thought that's
forget the
why I
name
couldn't think of
to
the
forget
name
the
of it.
name.
Yeah.
But I was like struck where you go to talk to that Dan Greene, that like original Dan Greene, is like, is it like his lunch break at the grocery store he's working at?
Yeah, we just went on the on his lunch break. Um, Dan Greene, just like the head of this cult. I forgot to mention also that the other Dan Greene, like the face of the Dan Greene, his real name is Trevor Nod, because they're being very like more open about their names now. Also, too, I just want to mention, like, years ago when their album, I think this was around Only Love, if I'm not mistaken, came out. So this is 2018, I think. This guy named Max Frank wrote an article for me when I was at Noisy, the website Noisy, and it is also an awesome piece of music journalism that I'd really recommend. And this was a time where they were at maybe the height of their like deliberately obtuseness. They were like, they liked fostering this like weird shadowy image, and when you read it, it sounds so, it's like a murder mystery, and it's all true, but in a sense it's like all made up. It's a really amazing story. Max did a great job, the writer. Also, Max is now, like me, maybe in the band too. Like, Max has played guitar for them before on stage. It's such a weird operation that like we're all part of in a way.
I just listened to you as I was driving home today. I just listened to you talk to the guy who's making the Saint Vitus book, and he
Oh
sounded
yeah, yeah.
like he was kind of in the band too. Like, I'm like, let's go.
That's the thing. Like, who's to say who's in the band and who's not in the band? It's like this big project. And if you've done something for it, because like I feel like a lot of their friends who are in the band aren't even musicians. Like, they have friends who make videos, they have friends who design their clothes, and like I guess I'm now their like official biographer, so
They
like, does that make me in the armed? I don't know. Does that make you in the armed for listening? Maybe.
there is an undercurrent of savvy that they clearly have that is
Oh my
like
God. So I really am drawn to, like, I'm a person who has like sort of a compulsive personality and sort of like an obsessive personality. And I have to do things the way I want them, down to like every detail. So I'm really drawn to people like that. I just yesterday got assigned to write about my neighbor Jeff Rosenstock, who I think is very much like that. Like, everything has to pass through through him. And so I just like people like that. And like, man, I spent a few days with the guy Tony from the Armed, and like, you can tell the amount he's thought about his band.
yeah, yeah.
Like, he can talk for hours about it in a really like intelligent way. And I don't know, I just think that comes through when that's like what I like about their music. You listen to it and you're like, all of this is so thought out. Like,
Mhm.
all of this is, there's so much care and thought put into all of it. And this new record sounds really different. It sounds really poppier than what they have done in the past. They're like hardcore records. But at the same time, like, I know that they didn't sit down and say like, oh, what if we flipped the script and made a poppy record? Yeah, let's do that to fool people. It was more like, hey, this is what we're all feeling right now, and this feels right. And so to me, it's just this like monster that moves in this really organic way. And they are, like I said, Tony just like has all of it in his mind. He's, like, it's, you can just really tell when someone is obsessive about what they make,
It,
and it's not just like a side project
for
for
for real, yeah. Who it reminds me of in certain ways is I just like earlier this year read Meet Me in the Bathroom, and there's like some Jack White, like the thing where it's all this like color palette on all the records, and then there's the kind of deception around whether they're siblings and stuff like that. There's like
mm-hmm.
I feel like that guy has some level of that. um
See, I like that though. I like when somebody is like, they're just like, they're it just means everything to them. I like that.
I dig
I'm
it too.
so, no disrespect to anybody else, but like, I cover a lot of music, and you can tell when there's just four guys in a band and
Yeah,
they
yeah.
play their shows and whatever. And you can tell when something is somebody's whole life and they would fucking die without making it, and
Yeah,
so big respect to like what they do. And it must be so hard to wrangle everybody in it. But
I
I
can
don't know. It just
imagine.
seems like it works in a really nice way. Like, it doesn't seem like, there are some people on their last record who are like not on this new record even at all. Like Kara, who is a very public figure of the band because she's like so very recognizable, she's barely even on this new record. And I think I don't know. I think the way it works is they just tell her like, like or they don't have an explicit thing. It's just like who's around at the moment. But it seems from a distance that like nobody gets bent out of shape about it. It's like, oh, maybe I'll
Yeah.
be on this next tour. Oh, actually, no, this tour is like these 9 people and not the other 9 people, So, like, I don't know. It's just, I think you have to like kind of do it for the greater good in this project.
It's very trippy. It's unlike any band I've really read about. If you enjoyed that clip, you should check out the After the Deluge podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. We have full episodes there, as well as right here on this YouTube channel. So hit the subscribe button and maybe check out whatever's being suggested to you right here. Thanks so much.